Okay, so picture this. There's a mountain in the Himalayas that's way, way shorter than Everest, over 2,200 meters shorter. But here's the thing. While thousands of people have stood on top of Everest, this other peak, it remains completely, mysteriously unclimbed. This is the incredible story of Mount Kailash. And that brings us to the big question, the one that kicks this whole thing off. Why? Why has no one ever actually made it to the summit of Mount Kailash? Is it impossible? Is it forbidden? Or is there something else going on entirely? Well, if you start digging around online, you'll find some absolutely wild stories. I'm talking claims of climbers aging years in just a matter of hours, theories about time itself warping and bending near the peak, and even whispers of some kind of deadly, invisible force that literally pushes people away. It's these legends that have turned Kailash into a viral mystery. But look, before we get into debunking all of that, you have to understand something absolutely fundamental about this mountain. This isn't just a hunk of rock and ice. For hundreds of millions of people, this is the spiritual center of the entire world. And what's so incredible is just how many people hold this place sacred. For Hindus, it's the actual home of Lord Shiva. For Buddhists, it's where the deity Chakrasamvara meditates. For Jains, this is the spot where their very first leader achieved liberation. And for followers of the ancient Bon faith, it's the Axis Mundi, the pillar connecting heaven and earth. I mean, think about that. It is so rare for one single place to be this important to four major religions. All right, so with that crucial context in mind, that this is one of the most sacred places on Earth, let's circle back to those supernatural claims. We're gonna open up a case file, so to speak, on the mysteries of Mount Kailash. So, believers point to a few key pieces of evidence. First, there's the idea that the mountain isn't even natural, but a giant man-made pyramid. Second, you've got the mystery of two lakes sitting right next to each other, one filled with fresh water, the other with salt water. Third, the most famous claim of all, time itself moves differently here. And finally, this idea that its location on the globe is somehow mathematically perfect. And this right here, this really sums up that most sensational claim. The story goes that near the mountain, time just works differently. Hair and nails that would normally take weeks to grow can shoot up in just 12 hours. It's a powerful and, let's be honest, kind of terrifying idea that has totally captured people's imagination. So, how much of this is actually true? This is where our investigation really begins, where we start to separate the facts from the fiction. And, you might be surprised to hear, it all seems to lead back to one very specific and very interesting Russian surgeon. Okay, let's tackle that pyramid theory first. Is Kailash man-made? Well, the science says no, not at all. Its super distinct shape is actually the result of a totally natural process called glacial erosion, which happened back during the ice ages. You had these massive glaciers basically carving away the sides of the mountain, leaving behind this sharp pyramid-like peak. In fact, if you look at the Matterhorn in the Swiss Alps, you'll see a very similar and 100% natural formation. All right, what about those two lakes? One fresh, one salty, right next to each other? It sounds like magic, but the explanation is actually just some cool basic hydrology. So Rakshastal, the salt lake, is what you call a landlocked lake. It has water flowing in, but no outlets. The only way water gets out is through evaporation. And when water evaporates, it leaves all the salts and minerals behind, which just get more and more concentrated over the centuries. Meanwhile, the freshwater lake Manasarova actually overflows into Rakshastal, which constantly flushes its own minerals out and keeps its water fresh. It's a really neat natural system. Now for the big ones, the really wild claims, the rapid aging, the time dilation. It might surprise you to learn that pretty much all of these sensational stories, including that famous one about Siberian climbers aging and dying, they can all be traced back to a single source, one person. And that source is this man, Dr. Ernst Moldashev. He was a Russian eye surgeon who led an expedition to Tibet back in 1999. Now, keep in mind, he wasn't a physicist, he wasn't a geologist, he was an ophthalmologist. After his trip, he came back with all these fantastic claims about Kailash that were never, ever published in any peer-reviewed scientific journal. And just to give you a little more of a sense of Dr. Moldashev's other ideas, he also claimed to have found Dracula's underground castle in Romania. He believed in the existence of mermaids and vampires, and he said there were superhumans in India who could communicate telepathically. So the point is, the source for these supernatural Kailash stories is a guy who, well, he specialized in some pretty out there science fiction level claims. Okay, let's talk numbers.
Is Kailash really in a mathematically perfect spot? The big claim is that it's exactly 6,666 kilometers from both the North Pole and from Stonehenge. But the reality, the numbers just don't add up, not even close. The actual distances are off by hundreds of kilometers. It's a classic case of finding numbers that sound kind of close and then building a myth around them.
So if it's not an invisible force, and it's not time dilation, and it's definitely not a secret pyramid, what is the real reason that no one has ever climbed Mount Kailash? The answer, it turns out, is all about history and respect. Back in 1985, arguably the world's greatest mountaineer, Reinhold Messner, was actually given permission by the Chinese government to climb it, and he turned it down. Then, in 2001, a Spanish team got a permit, and that sparked massive international protests. This pressure led directly to the Chinese government officially and permanently banning all climbing on the mountain that very same year. And this quote from Reinhold Messner himself, it just gets to the absolute heart of it. He said, "If we conquer this mountain, then we conquer something in people's souls." He basically said that some things are more important than just planting a flag on a summit. And coming from the first person to climb all 14 of the world's 8,000-meter peaks, that carries some serious weight. So let's get to our verdict here. What is the true miracle of Mount Kailash?
So the real miracle of this mountain, it isn't some supernatural force protecting it. The miracle is a human one. It's this rare collective decision that we as a species made to look at something magnificent and agree not to conquer it, but simply to respect it. And that decision makes Mount Kailash completely unique. It is the one mountain on planet Earth that humanity has collectively agreed to leave unclimbed. Not because it's too hard, but purely out of reverence. Just one. Which kind of leaves us all with a final thought to chew on. In an age where we are just driven to explore, to summit, to conquer every single frontier, what else is out there that's maybe meant to be respected and not conquered?